who's 47, and PC Jamie Lewis, who's 33, was supposed to be protecting the crime scene where the two sisters lay stabbed to death. Instead, they breached the police cordon to take photos of their bodies, and they described them in those WhatsApp chats as dead birds. In one of them, Lewis took a selfie photo of himself and superimposed it onto an image of the bodies. They've both been kicked out of the force after they were found guilty at a gross misconduct hearing, and they have admitted misconduct in a public office here at the Old Bailey. The judge heard from their defence how they were filled with remorse and never intended for the images to be shared any further, but the judge didn't accept that as a reason why they should not go to prison. Mark Bluecraft QC said Bieber and Nicole had been stripped of dignity in death as he told the two men, "The public expects the highest standards of police officers, and there will be thousands horrified by you." He said, "You wholly disregarded the two victims of this horrific violence and their families for what the judge said was a cheap thrill, kudos, or something of a bragging right." He told the officers, "You undermined the trust and faith in police that the public should expect, and they acted without any thought." He said it's difficult, if not impossible, for anyone to comprehend what the family have gone through as a result of the murders, and now what you have done. He also said the fact that the man who murdered Bieber and Nicole, Daniel Hussein, who's serving a life sentence, was able to put forward as a defence that the crime scene could have been contaminated due to the actions of the two officers was a major aggravating factor. Both of them were handed sentences of 2 years and 9 months, for which they've been ordered to spend half behind bars.
Charlotte Lynch reporting. In the House of Commons shortly, we expect the Minister for Crime and Policing, Kit Malthouse, to get to his feet and set out details of the UK government's 10-year strategy on drugs for England and Wales. This hour, I want to hear from you if you have some expertise in this area. Lots of people have opinions about this, and rightly so. But if you have taken drugs, if you work in drug treatment, if you have a family member who has problems with illegal drugs, or if you work in law enforcement, you have got some useful experience here that will be useful to the rest of us. So you come front and centre in this discussion in the next hour. The phone number 0345 6060 973. We'll take you through some of the ideas as we know them. Let me know what you think will work and what won't work. And I think we can go, is that Kit Malthouse on his feet? Let's go to the House of Commons and risk it.
Kate Asimov. Excuse me. The Nigerian High Commissioner.
Now, you see, that was the wrong thing to do. I've done that before. We'll get to Kit Malthouse in due course. I do just want to hear what he's got to say, because part of the problem here is we haven't seen the detail of the report. There was a big interview that Boris Johnson did yesterday in The Sun on Sunday, and you'll have read some of the accounts from that. The Sun reported it like this: tackling drug abuse will be at the heart of a law and order initiative to be announced this week. It will include harsh punishments to deter lifestyle drug use, including removal of passport and driving licenses, nighttime curfews, and football-style travel bans. Tougher sentences for dealers, action to break up county lines gangs who exploit children, and a crackdown on drugs in prisons. Record spending on treatment and recovery services to get people out of addictions which drive offending, and extra cash for 50 local authorities with the worst drug problems, including Middlesbrough, Blackpool, Liverpool, Hull, and coastal towns in the northeast of England and Yorkshire. Boris Johnson had something to say for himself on this today.
What's new is that we are putting a lot more investment, number one, into tackling the 300,000 problem drugs users who drive about half of acquisitive crime and about half of the homicides in this country. Crime has been coming down overall in the last couple of years, but we're seeing a lot of problems caused by these 300,000 problem drugs users. So what we're doing is we're ramping up our campaign against the county lines networks that are preying on these users. You've got to invest in rehabilitation. Everybody who knows about drugs will tell you that 300,000 people, their lives are chaotic. They need to be taken off drugs. They need to be put into rehab. You've got to invest in rehab. But you've also got to come down hard on the gangsters who are making hell of people's lives. We want everybody so we're going to be coming down tougher on them. But this is about being very, very tough on county lines gangs, wrapping that up. We've already rolled up about 1,500 county lines gangs. We want to do 2,000 more.
Well, that's the thrust of it from Boris Johnson. In our last hour, we caught up with Danny Shaw, who's head of strategy and insight at Crest Advisory, and he has had first sight of the report.
I have to say, I've just seen this new strategy, 65 pages, Eddie. It's called From Harm to Hope, and it is very ambitious in terms of drug treatment and recovery services. There is a substantial amount of new investment going in. I was looking very much at the detail of that to see whether the government would put the money where its mouth is, and I think they have. Over the next 3 years, they have gone with the recommendations made by Dame Carol Black, who produced a thorough and wide-ranging review of drug policy, which came out in the summer, and they really have taken her advice on board, and they are investing heavily in drug treatment and prevention. It's very ambitious in terms of what it's hoping to achieve over the next 3 years and then over the longer term. The question is, we are in a worse place in terms of drug misuse and drug deaths than we were a decade or so ago. So the ambitions, according to this document, are by March 2025, which, interesting to note, that'll probably be after the next general election, is to prevent nearly 1,000 deaths in England, and to provide over 54,000 new treatment places, and also to prevent some 750,000 crimes. So ambitious targets, but perhaps so far in the distance that it may well be that the ministers who are introducing this won't actually be in place by the time that we see the results.
Danny Shaw with first sight of harm to hope. What do you think? 0345 6060 973. If you have some expertise in this area based on your own experience as a drug user, as someone who's maybe got a family member who struggles with illegal drugs, or maybe you're involved in drug treatment, rehabilitation, so on, or maybe law enforcement, you have more insight than most on this, so I'd love to hear from you. 0345 6060 973. At 6:15, here's Amelia with the headlines.
The Metropolitan Police has issued an apology following the sentencing of 2 officers who took photos of 2 murdered sisters. The Health Secretary has confirmed there is now community transmission of the Omicron coronavirus variant in multiple regions of England. And the Energy Minister says it's unacceptable 1,600 homes remain without power as they brace themselves for more strong winds tomorrow. LBC weather, some showers moving in from the west tonight, a low of 1 degree.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave. Golf is very slow on the M25 anti-clockwise. One lane is closed because of an accident between junction 25 for Enfield and junction 24 for Potters Bar. There are also queues on the M25 clockwise from junction 22 for St Albans to junction 25 for Enfield after an accident earlier. There are delays in Finchley. The North Circular Road is blocked in both directions at Henley's Corner because of an accident. In Southall, the A312 Parkway southbound is shut before the White Hart roundabout because of an accident, so there are queues. In Wapping, there are severe delays on the highway in both directions because of the temporary traffic lights at Glamis Road. And on the trains, there are severe delays on London Overground between Stratford and Richmond and between Stratford and Clapham Junction. That's after a train broke down earlier on.
This is LBC. LBC.
Swale Heating look to the future. We fit air source heat pumps and solar panels, as well as conventional boilers. And we help our customers create a greener, more sustainable home. But to achieve our vision, we need excellent staff. We are looking for customer service advisors and engineers of any discipline to join our team. For more information, visit swaleheating.com. Swale Heating. Rely on us to keep you warm.
I've looked after my kids since they were born. Now they've got kids. I still want to look after them. I don't want them struggling to make decisions about my money or my health if I can't. So write-off for all of us, isn't it?
Yes, Mum. Lasting power of attorney. Search your voice, your decision.
It was just another day in another week for Jenny. But as she listened to the radio, she was suddenly filled with an urge to escape. So Jenny pressed the green button and flew to Ireland's wild Atlantic way. She met the friendly locals of Cork's famous English market, indulged in the delicious fresh seafood of Galway, and explored the dramatic coastlines and picturesque landscapes of Donegal. Press the green button and fly to Ireland's wild Atlantic way this winter. Just over an hour from London's Stansted Airport.
It's been quite a year, but Christmas is back. At every Marouche restaurant, you, your friends, family or colleagues can celebrate the Christmas season with authentic, indulgent Lebanese food. From a small get-together to an extravagant party to an authentic Lebanese shopping experience, your celebration this festive season will be remembered for Christmases to come. Reward yourself and others at a Marouche restaurant this Christmas party season. Find marouche.com.
You're more than a small business, so MailChimp made this more than an ad. It's also an operetta.
MailChimp has a smart marketing platform with marketing automations, smart recommendations, and creative tools that all work together to help you sell more stuff.
MailChimp, built for growing
Business. Experience one of those rare moments where you find everything you need and everything you desire. The new all-electric BMW range brings you the performance and handling you expect with all the styling, detailing and comfort you could wish for. From the new iX or iX3 sports activity vehicle, an i4 Crane Coupe, to the iconic i3 Sports Hatch, the BMW all-electric range offers all the functionality you need. Find your BMW Electric. Discover more at your local BMW centre or search bmw.co.uk.
This is LBC with Eddie Mayer. Call 0345 6060 973.
A new strategy for England and Wales for tackling illegal drugs due to be formally announced in the House of Commons any moment now by Kit Malthouse. It's called Harm to Hope. We heard from Danny Shaw a moment ago. It says there's a lot of money here, more than he thought there would be for drug treatment and rehabilitation. But he also said to me in our 5 o'clock hour that whatever fresh money's been given here, there was a lot of money taken out of these treatments over the last 10 years and more. If you have some knowledge of this, 0345 6060 973. And this brings the conversation Harry Shapiro, Director of DrugsWise, an organisation that informs the public about drug abuse and policies here in the UK. Harry, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
What do you make? I don't know if you've also had sight of Harm to Hope as Danny has. What do you make of it?
Well, the press release was quite extensive and quite a lot of it has already been trialed. It's I've been in this drugs field for over 40 years now, and I've seen drug strategies of the past. And in fact, Boris Johnson is now facing exactly the same issue that Tony Blair faced in the late 90s, a drug situation out of control, a drug treatment system that's not fit for purpose, which is what Dame Carol Black called our current system, which leaves government with basically a twin-track approach, which is what Tony Blair did. It was break the link between drugs and crime. So you've just heard about various ways of getting people out of the criminal justice system, being sentenced to treatment, sent to various community drug treatment centres and rehab. So you've got the break the link between drugs and crime bit, and you've got the crackdown on everything else bit. You've got the bit that we're going to crack down on county lines and drug dealers and all the rest of it. I have to say, what's quite interesting, although over the weekend there was lots of headlines about passports being taken away and all of that, the press release itself has all of that right at the very bottom. Right at the very bottom. The other thing I think to point out, as Danny Shaw has just mentioned, that approach to the drugs problem has been replicated in all subsequent drug strategies that we've had, with the exception of 2010, when the Conservative government came to power. Since then, there's been a substantial disinvestment in drug treatment services. So yes, there's been a huge amount of money put into the system, but a lot of it really is catch-up, because the drug treatment system has been left kind of dangling in the wind, really, because of austerity and all the things that have happened in the past decade or so.
Given your experience in this, I really want to tap into your expertise, because I've heard it said again today, that whatever fresh clothing is put on this today, this is essentially the same strategy that's been tried for decades, and the argument runs, well look, if it's not working, we should try something else. What's your take?
Well, the thing that people look at when they say we have to try something else, the only other thing that comes up in conversation is drug legalisation and significant drug law reform. And I don't honestly think there's any public or political appetite for that. Not that I can see, certainly not in this country. And I think that the sort of responses that I have given over the years is really an issue of damage limitation. I mean, the public expect law enforcement to do what it can to, stop drugs coming into the country and stop drugs coming onto the street. It's a reasonable expectation. I think it's been extremely disappointing that there's been this disinvestment in treatment. I think also, I don't know if this is in the report, but there's also some big missing bits of the equation here. Obviously a concern about young people getting involved with county lines. What that really needs is significant investment in things like early intervention programs, family support, a decent youth service. There's a whole area. It's like going upstream. It isn't just dealing with people who have a drug problem and giving them treatment and putting them into rehab. There's all that upstream stuff, and also mental health services as well. I mean, people have complicated lives. People who've got a serious drug problem, it's not just one type of person that you can give one sort of treatment to. It's not like diabetes. It doesn't matter if you're a prince or a pauper. The only really gold standard is insulin. Drug treatment is not like that at all. There are different ways of tackling it. Some things will work for some people, some things will work for other people. But I'm not entirely sure, given the general narrative around drug policy, that government actually has much in the way of options that is, if you like, politically acceptable. The only other thing I would say, which again, I think we tend to lose sight of a little bit, is that this is a global problem. This is a global problem. It's a multi-billion-pound industry. And the heart of this is money, is cash that's flowing through the system, flowing through the world banking systems. And trying to deal with that is extremely difficult, very politically sensitive, expensive and time-consuming. And if you have anybody from Customs and Excise or law enforcement coming on your program, I'm sure they will agree that macro issue is really very rarely tackled.
Harry, thank you very much for being part of the conversation. Harry Shapiro, Director of DrugsWise. And as it happens, I know that our first caller in this, Sam, not your real name, Sam, but you do know a bit about this from the point of view of law enforcement. Welcome to the programme.
Right, yes. Harry's bang on the money. It is a vast problem, and there is no, like you said about diabetes, there is no catch-all fix. My background is from drugs work within intelligence within the police force, which I left 3 years ago, but my last 5 years of intelligence was to do with counter-arms drug gang. And again, like Harry said, there was a problem because the government, as it was when it came in 20 police and talking with young, they were called offenders, and some senior officers called them streetwise, but these are kids. They were between the ages of 14 and 17 years old, and they're being made to bring drugs into different counties. And these are called streetwise and seen as criminals because they're dealing drugs, whereas they're actually groomed members of a community that are forced into doing this.
And for people who are not in your line of work, Sam, how does that happen?
Well, there are lots of different ways. There are things through threats by way of drug dealers, as in very, very high up within the echelons of the community of drug dealers, so say within an area of London, for example, is a very good example of it. And they will either work through threat or they will buy into a community by funding, buying children training, buying children food, giving them cash and saying, do me a favour, you can just run this from here to there for me within your community. And then you build up a level of trust. These people are predominantly, as in the youngsters are predominantly from broken homes or from homes with not a lot of cash and not a lot of things that they can do or be involved with. And so they get sucked into this world, and these people become almost heroes to them. They have money, they have ready cash, they look good, they give them stuff that they would never be able to afford. And then that's how the grooming starts, and that's why they're not streetwise. It's because these kids are brought into a world where they have no control, and then once they're brought into it, they are in that person's pocket, and they have to proceed by taking drugs to places and funding drugs to different counties, because if they don't, then they're in debt to these drug dealers, and that's not where you want to be. And it's not an easy fix, and I don't envy the government, no matter what government it may be. But investment is big and it's great, and investment in law enforcement is great, but it's all the stuff around the outside that people focused on as well, and communities, the young black predominant communities that are one of them. They need help and support.
Sam, thank you. 0345 6060 973. I'm told that Kit Malthouse is on his feet right now. I will bring you the details of what he's saying right after the headlines. Here's Amelia Cox.
2 former police officers have been jailed for almost 3 years each for taking and sharing photos of the bodies of 2 murdered sisters. PC Dennis Jaffa and PC Jamie Lewis were formally dismissed by the Metropolitan Police last month. The government has confirmed community transmission of the Omicron coronavirus variant is taking place in multiple regions of England. The Health Secretary has told MPs there are now 336 cases in the UK. And the White House says it will not send any diplomatic or official representatives to the 2022 Beijing Olympics. The diplomatic boycott of the Winter Games in February is based on China's human rights abuses.
LBC Business Update.
With Direct Line Business Insurance. Tailor your insurance to your business so you only pay for what you need.
The Deputy Governor of the Bank of England has warned the cost of living will rise further by the spring. Ben Broadbent says inflation could comfortably exceed 5%. LBC weather, some showers moving in from the west tonight, a low of 1 degree.
LBC, you're a visionary, an entrepreneur, a passionate business owner, driven by results and poised for growth. You need opportunity. They easily match businesses of all sizes to winnable council, NHS and national government contracts. Just sign up, match with tenders, and they'll help with the rest. Now is the time. Seize your opportunity. Get your free trial at opportunity.com.
Opportunity.
Hi, I'm Zane, a customer service assistant for TfL. As you return to our network, let me remind you that you can travel safely because we're cleaning regularly with antiviral disinfectant, providing over 1,000 free hand sanitizer stations across the network, and our ventilation systems frequently circulate fresh air on our tubes, trains and buses. Please remember, you must wear a face covering over your nose and mouth at all times, unless you are exempt. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Calling all London minicab drivers, we got a job for you. Now work is starting to get back to normal levels. Are you sure you're working for the right cab company? Try driving for Greyhound Cars. Greyhound Cars use the latest technology and is part of Multi-Fleet, which means you can access more work from more areas, increasing potential earnings and reducing dead mileage. We offer flexible hours and a start bonus of 0% commission for 4 weeks. So apply today. Visit greyhoundcars.com. bmw.co.uk.
Experience one of those rare moments where you find everything you need and everything you desire. The new all-electric BMW range brings you the performance and handling you expect with all the styling, detailing and comfort you could wish for. From the new iX or iX3 Sports Activity Vehicle and i4 Grand Coupe to the iconic i3 Sports Hatch, the BMW all-electric range offers all the functionality you need. Find your BMW Electric. Discover more at your local BMW centre or search bmw.co.uk.
If someone has COVID-19, they breathe it out in particles. Particles that linger in the air like smoke. But 1 in 3 people who have the virus have no symptoms and could be breathing it onto others without knowing. So when you go out, wear a face covering in enclosed, busy spaces to help reduce the amount of COVID-19 particles in the air. Stop COVID-19 hanging around.
More and more people are using My Smart Desk to make smart working even more flexible. It'll raise and lower into any sitting or standing position at the touch of a button. And now comes with built-in USB-C and wireless smartphone charge points. Available with £50 off for just $449, including free delivery. The future is flexible at mysmartdesk.co.uk. Rated excellent on Trustpilot.
Eddie Mayer on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
A new illegal drug strategy from Boris Johnson's government for the next 10 years, covering England and Wales. We have first indications of it. We'll hear from the Commons and Kit Malthouse in just a second. We heard from Sam a moment ago, who used to work in law enforcement. There's some interesting thoughts on what he thinks is required, explaining more about how county lines work. Let me know what your take is. 0345 6060 973. Andy Cowan is from Anyone's Child. Andy, welcome to the programme. How are you?
I'm good, Eddie. How are you?
I'm fine. Tell me about Anyone's Child.
So Anyone's Child is a group of people who are relatives of people who have unfortunately died or been severely affected, in many cases died as a result of drug use. And I guess it has two main elements. One is really to sort of campaign for changes that the group believes, had they been in existence, their loved ones may not have suffered in the way that they did, and therefore, we suffer accordingly. But also it's a group of sharing. We get together and we talk about what happened, and I guess there's a consolation in just being together, and the group is growing because unfortunately the problem continues to be a huge problem and people continue to die.
You lost your son?
Yes, I did. Daniel was 29, very healthy, vigorous young guy with a great job, a great future. He was the middle son of our three children, and very much a family guy. Loved Christmas. He really loved Christmas. So this is a particularly difficult time of year for us. But just over 5 years ago, he overdosed and died from drugs. Yeah.
What do you know about what happened to him when he got the drugs?
So he was effectively, as we understand now, he never really talked about it, but clearly he was in a